YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back on Total War Rome 2, where I was going to do a faction focus. Haven't done one of these in forever. I never finished these, and I need to finish them. The last time I did one, I think I did Massilia, Nervii, and then skipped straight to Rome and did a special episode with Mrs. Air. And then Attila released, and I hadn't done one since, so I'm going to pick it back up. We'll hit Odrysian Kingdom, Parthia, Pergamon, Pontus, Egypt, Roxolani, Royal City. I got a lot of these to go in order to finish, because I had been working through them in order, except for Carthage, which I need to save for last. I need to do some of these on Attila also, but no one plays multiplayer on it. We'll see. Maybe I can find a different way to do a faction focus. But yeah, so Odrysian Kingdom are an interesting faction, very unique flavor here. They're a Thracian faction. They've got these Thracian Nobles and a Thracian Royal Cab as a general. Interesting options. You're going to find yourself more often than not choosing a Thracian Noble, just because the state of Rome 2 leans towards infantry-heavy armies, and these guys are murderously good infantry with an obvious downfall. You can see their melee attack is off the charts. Weapon damage is great. They have a 15 bonus versus large too, because they carry a Rumphia unit. They have a 63 charge bonus, which is massive, but they've got no melee defense because they don't really have a shield. They have decentish armor, but because they have no shield, they will get picked apart by skirmishers, and when they get charged by cavalry, if they're not braced like a shot cavalry, a very heavy shot cav, they can take a lot of damage. So these guys are obviously, like most other units, are going to be prone to rear charges. They're going to be prone to skirmishers. If you can get them into a fight with a nice clean charge, they are going to do massive damage to the enemies that they come in contact with. Good health, good morale, headhunt. So it's going to make them a solid unit. Now the Thracian Royal Cab is an interesting one too. It has expert charge defense, which is very odd. Wedge won't do it much good. It's too bad it doesn't get frenzied charge. Decent charge bonus, as with all Barbarian Cav. Pretty good stats overall. The reason why you won't find yourself going to it as often is because it's harder to make high-end melee cavalry be cost-effective than it is for high-end melee infantry. Now, speaking of melee infantry, you get Mercenary Falxmen, Thracian Warriors, and Thracian Nobles. Now, Thracian Warriors and Thracian Nobles fight with Rumphia, so they're both plus 15 versus large, and the Mercenary Falxmen fight with a Falx, which I believe is plus 10 versus large, so all these have a bonus versus large. All these units are very similar. High charge, high attack, good weapon damage, pretty much no missile block chance, if any, and little armor. So the nice thing is, though, is you get cheap ones to go along with the expensive one. Now these guys are very, very fragile, but they can quickly pay for themselves if you get them into the right fight. Offering basically the only missile block chance and armor for the Odrysian Kingdom is going to be these Hoplites and the Mercenary Veteran Hoplites. Mercenary Veteran Hoplites are a pretty tanky unit, quite expensive, sometimes kind of hard to get them to pay off at that price, but they actually can sometimes find their place in an Odrysian army. Mercenary Hoplites, same story, just not quite as good, but they are cheaper. Spears, these guys are not so great. I don't remember if they have precursors or not. If they do, then they'll basically serve your Levy Freeman purpose. Thracian Slingers, pretty weak, but still can be a handy unit just because they're cheap. Same thing with the Thracian Bowmen. Thracian Skirmishers do get the advantage of 41 javelin damage, which is an elite javelin at a pretty nice price. And Thracian Peltist actually boasts some pretty nice attack stats here. If you can get these guys a rear charge or something after they've depleted their javelins, very handy unit, though a bit expensive. Very cheap Thracian Horsemen, and they're not very good either, but these guys are so cheap that sometimes you can throw a few upgrades on them to try and keep them in the fight. I would just stick with Thracian Cavalry. Very nice Jav Cav here with 40 attack, 36 damage. Very nice Cav. It is a light missile Cav, so there's not much mass on them, but a rear charge after discharging javelins can be quite good. The only thing that would make these guys any better is had they got the elite javelin too, which I think they should have. Just your basic artillery there. So you can get lots of different types of builds with the Odrysians. That's what makes them fun. You could go infantry heavy, basically, like get a couple of those guys, maybe 4 of those. You could get some heavier units over here. Let's make sure we're on the we'll just go to large unit settings, or large funds, so that you all can get a feel for this. Like normally I would always just make like a standard 4 Thracian cavalry. I'd definitely get some slingers. Definitely want some of these guys. Thracian Peltist. You've got extra money, so you could always throw like another Thracian Royal in there. So, I mean, this might be an example of an army. Lots of skirmishing power here. You've got all this Jav Cav, all these Thracian Peltists to pick apart infantry. You've got a little bit of armor here to maybe hold down a center. Keep these guys in reserve. Use these guys for support. These guys can support the flanks as well. So that might be one idea that you could do for like a skirmish heavy army. I mean, you could do a rush build with the Thracians. I don't know that I know the best rush build, but I'll just throw something together here. I mean, you could always just throw in a bunch of these guys. Maybe get some spears to help pick up the flanks, and then do something like this. Except you could pick up a better unit. I mean, just, I don't know, see how you can just kind of tank it out with something like that. You could have a rush army, so 4 nobles, all these Thracian warriors. You have to be very careful about getting countercharged. You'd have a little bit of skirmish power. I have 5 of these cavalrymen. You really only need probably 4 of them. I mean, you could do something even more like that. And then just maybe drop a spearman. You could even get another Thracian warrior in there. So, I mean, that's a lot of infantry. So, a lot of stuff you could do with their armies. So, they're very rushy. They can be pretty skirmishy, too. You're going to have to watch out. They can bring some very unique, odd armies. I would say that you do not want to be the Thracians on a forested map. You're going to want to use them on a map that's got some open ground, mainly because they have high charge and they rely on missiles. So a forest is probably going to be your worst nightmare. So I would say these guys are going to be great in low funds battles too, because they have these cheap shock infantry and nice skirmish cavalry. They're also going to be pretty good in large funds battles. They're going to be a good infantry faction, though kind of a glass cannon. So hopefully that helps you characterize them. Let's watch a replay that I've got for you. It's a pretty different one that I did not expect. I joined a 2v2. My teammate picked a Swaby, and I was like, oh, the Swaby will be kind of fun to match with the Odrysians, except he picks like a completely weird army. Very weird. And then I had no idea what to expect from the Arverni or the Iceni. Both technically should be better factions in general than what we've got over here on our side, but depends on how they're used. Let's see how this goes. It is on an open map of Cyrene. You can see my army is made up of 7 Thracian Nobles, and you'll see why here in a minute, like 7 Thracian Nobles, really? Yeah, it's because my, oh, whoops, actually hit fight the battle rather than to play it. Yep, so don't want to fight it. There we go. So we're going to watch it. Yeah, look at my teammate's army here in a second, and all of a sudden you'll have... I forgot to put the Rome 1 music on. Oh well, we're just going to have to put up with the junky Rome 2 music for this particular video. So, what we did, and I'm going to pause it, so this is a pretty typical strategy. Actually, I'll just go into slow motion so that it's moving, and then well, actually, we can probably just go into play. So, we stacked all up on one flank, because we're going to push hard on one player. Now, the best way for the Arverni and the Iceni to face this would be to quickly wheel this army this way and this one back, and then you would form a new cohesive battle line together right there in the center, and they could pretty easily overcome this. But we left a few troops over here just for the sole purpose of checking the Arverni and making them not want to do that, and we'll see if they bite it. So again, the Swaby army that you're going to see here is going to be very weird. It's got a crap load of upgraded Night Hunters, so they actually have pretty decent melee attack at this point, though they're still a pretty fragile unit, but they all have the scare ability. And then he's got up front like, oh geez, what is it? It's going to be 7 Longbow Hunters. So I brought a ton of infantry because I saw my teammate bring tons of support units. So I was like, well, I'm going to have as much infantry killing power as possible, and having lots of good mid-tier melee infantry would have been better. But since I have the good elite infantry, I was like, you know what, I can at least wreck one of the enemy armies with what I have, and then maybe my cavalry can get rid of some enemy cav, and sure enough, they're being given the opportunity already, luring out some veteran riders who are going to get hammered with javelins from my Thracian cavalry. They're already losing men, so the Iceni player is taking the bait here. They even have some chariots that they've brought. The Iceni chariots, not particularly great units. They can be used okay versus very light units in, say, like an early game campaign, but you won't find them as good versus the heavier units, and they're a bit tricky to use. Here they actually get peppered by a bunch of longbowmen and actually lose a chariot on the way out. So yeah, the Iceni player here is doing exactly what he should not. He turns to face this oncoming bums rush here, and this is absolutely not what he should do. He does the right thing, though. He takes these Briton slingers and begins peppering my Thracian nobles, though he should have focused fire so he could have done more damage to one unit rather than doing some damage to several units. Arverni making the absolute wrong move here, too. He's facing this insignificant flank where he could have easily protected against this flank and helped the Iceni wipe me out. But now I'm going to get very nice charges onto the Arverni. I have only taken a few losses in each unit because of the Briton slingers. We're pushing up hard on the flank of the Iceni. I'm going to move a couple of these units into the flank, move my Thracian cavalry in from behind, and then over here I've got the Arverni cav checked with a couple of Thracian cavs so that it'll be kind of scared to go around us. Here comes the charge of my Thracian Nobles. The Iceni goes into shield wall. It'll only prolong this fight, but prolonging the fight is actually kind of not a bad idea. You can see this unit here just gets absolutely wrecked. My Thracian Nobles took a lot of javelins off these other units, is the only reason why they lost as many men as they did. They are wrecking that Chosen Sword Band. So several Chosen Sword Bands. The Chosen Spear Bands were just a poor pick against the factions that he's up against here. The cavalry of the Odrysians and the Suebi do not necessitate Chosen Spear Band. I don't know what cavalry in the game, period, necessitate Chosen Spear Band. Nice frenzied charge here from the Arverni cavalry. Great support. It's going to wreck my Thracian Nobles pretty bad. But these guys have not gotten near as many kills as they should have here. Only 43. So, and then only 65 kills there. So my Thracian Nobles up front not doing as well as they should have because of the, again, it's the javelins coming off these units behind. They're just picking my guys off with javelins here on the flanks. So it ended up being a bad deal for me. So that frontline engagement was not so great. But now the scare effect of these Night Hunters making itself felt. These Chosen Spear Band are actually wavering due to being outflanked. And so you're actually going to see quite a few Iceni units potentially waver. Now I'm about to get rear charged by a Chosen Spear Band, which would be quite bad. I do get a last second attack order here, but it's probably too late. It's a good thing I turned around too, because the slingers are starting to try and pepper me again too. It's a smart move to try and take out my general. I actually lost the charge to that Spear Band, so I go into headhunt to try and make up some ground now with the 88 attack. So I'm going to be cutting down these spearmen like crazy, but the Arverni's getting up behind me, so I bring another noble unit over here to try and keep them busy. I'm losing most of my nobles here in the center and not getting particularly great number of kills. My general takes a rear charge. Fortunately though, I'll be unbreakable in headhunt. Not invincible, but unbreakable. Killed a lot of those spear band really fast, but now my general is going to get tired. That Arverni heavy horse though got jacked up pretty bad in that fight. And then I actually got a charge on the enemy Oathsworn here. It did not get a counter charge on me. So I managed to kill a ton of Oathsworn with my general. So my general is doing better. The enemy cavalry has been picked apart and driven off by my Thracians. And then the Suebi player just fell back. And I'm just using my skirmishers over here as bait. I actually didn't mean to do this. I was focusing somewhere else. Killing some of his Gallic hunters here. That's a lot of expensive bowmen. I've got more nobles free now that can pour into this fight with the enemy Oathsworn general. The Oathsworn general is in shield wall and headhunt, so he's going to be pretty tough to take out. Over here, nice charge with those nobles, but getting some reinforcing Chosen Swordsmen. I've got more nobles swinging around, but they are potentially going to get charged by a heavy horse. Not a great position for me. But the Arverni can't get to the skirmishers of the Suebi with these Night Hunters around. The Suebi skirmishers are way too blobbed up, but they're still getting important shots, firing into the flank of that Oathsworn, doing a bunch of damage. My Thracian cavalry are going to run a rear charge here on those Chosen Swordsmen and the enemy general. My general is just died with 40 some odd men left, which I thought was kind of crap, but whatever, he was going to die eventually in that fight. Night Hunter's going to come reinforce here against the heavy horse. They will actually mop that fight up quite easily. The rear charge from my Thracian cavalry actually routed those Chosen Spearmen, and I should have immediately gotten over here into the Gallic Hunters. Should have gotten over here into the Gallic Hunters and then swung around here and just finished them off, but there is some heavy horse around. My Thracian cavalry actually doing some javelin damage to it. I got a few javelins left. Looks like my cavalry is now going to come after these. Well, I was going to go after the Gallic Hunters. I actually threw some javelins first. These Thracian cavalry actually do pretty well versus all these Gallic Hunters. They'll get a lot of kills, even depleted. But I am being chased by a heavy horse, so that'll come in here and finish me off. So yeah, the fight's actually kind of swung into the favor of our team here. The Night Hunters are not particularly great units, but now that they've got all these units surrounded and there's longbow hunters pouring fire into the back of these Oathsworn and stuff like that, the Oathsworn aren't going to be able to be cost effective. They're in shield wall, and it's not really helping them because they need to be spread out against the flank of all these Night Hunters, but instead they're just taking lots of damage. What's left of my Thracian Nobles is really damaging the enemy Oathsworn, but the enemy Oathsworn all the way up to a silver chevron here, not because it kills, probably because it was upgraded. that chosen swordsman took a pretty nasty charge from my Thracian Nobles, these guys getting a lot of kills. And my Thracian cavalry killed a pretty large number of the Gallic hunters before they died. So the Gallic hunters are no longer a major concern. This heroic rider coming back from the corners of the map from having chased off a Thracian cav earlier. I'm going to get another rear charge here on the enemy Oathsworn General. If we can kill the enemy Oathsworn General, it's going to make a big impact to the morale of the Arverni and help break them. And let's take a look here. I think the enemy general dies maybe here momentarily. Yeah, attacked in the rear. The Oathsworn general's wavering. Some extra swordsmen coming in. No, the general's still alive at this point. Right here, this fight's interesting. It's a big old blob of Night Hunters. I noticed that I still had this Javelin unit and I had some ammo, so I'm going to try and get around the flank here. These Night Hunters are getting beat down in prolonged melee by Celtic warriors. But if I can get that Javelin unit up in time, I might be able to save them. Still, all these Longbow Hunters left. They have quite a bit of ammo because he's had them bunched up. The enemy Oathsworn General is about to die. Yep, he's off the field. So now the Arverni are going to take a big morale hit. You can see it already playing into these units over here. One of them, General, recently died. And then watch this cheeky little move that I do here. Flaming Javelins. Yes, the Swaby were also having low morale, so this was a bit of a risk. One of them actually routs, but the scare effect from the Swaby along with those Flaming Javelins, and then the sudden movement forward, another rear toss back into there to cause some damage, and the Celtic warriors actually rout over here, and we're able to get them off the field. And then I take my Thracian skirmishers, daggers drawn, and get into this Gallic hunter, which won't be able to fend these guys off in melee. So they are going to rout due to being attacked in the rear. So quick cheeky flaming javelin here, knock these guys out, and our weird armies actually able to overcome the enemy here. It was a very weird fight. Fortunately, our enemies made a lot of mistakes, or else this wouldn't have worked. Now, having this many bowmen could potentially be fairly deadly. Having them all blobbed up like this, not so much. But they still did a pretty decent amount of damage during this battle, killing quite a few Oathsworn and other high-impact units. There's one spear unit left way out here, so I'm going to take my skirmisher that way, and I have like 1 or 2 volleys of javelins left. So I'm going to come out here and pitch a volley of flaming javelins at these Arverni saps and scare them off the field once and for good. You can always use flaming missiles for a quick scare effect, especially if you hit them in the rear, because then they'll get the attack in the rear penalty and the flaming. So you can see it got those guys off. So again, they're the Odrysians. Nothing special as far as the number of kills there. I mean, my whole army died in the attempt, but you can see that Thracian cavalry can be quite useful. Obviously, these infantry are very deadly, but here I was in a situation where it was less than optimal. You ideally want to kill enemy skirmishers before engaging. These guys, again, though, as you saw, very prone to missile fire, very prone to javelin fire. It gets rid of them very quickly, so you have to make sure your flanks are secure, and you need your cavalry to have gotten rid of enemy cavalry, preferably. If you take a look here, I mean, they had some nice meat shield units here with the Celtic warriors, but the Arverni taking the bait and going after our diversionary force was just a massive waste that allowed the Iceni player to get completely overwhelmed. You can see he didn't get any kills with his chariots. His general got picked to pieces by Thracian Cav. These chosen spear units just really weren't the appropriate unit for this fight. Had he actually brought some heroic nobles here, there's no way we would have won that, because the heroic nobles would have put up a better fight. So just a bad army choice here, plus a bad decision as far as facing both of us. Ended up being too much for the Iceni to be able to handle us. Swaby took very light losses. Probably still had a lot of ammo left on these longbowmen. His Wodenaz Spear General actually got a very impressive number of kills, and a few of his Night Hunters even got decent numbers of kills here. So a very odd choice of units, but it was still a lot of fun, a lot of spears there. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. There's the Arverni stats. Nothing spectacular here. His general did better than any of the other units, but still not particularly great. Hope you all enjoyed this faction focus. Overall, I'd rate the Odrysian Kingdom as kind of a mid-tier faction. They can be a surprise faction because, again, you could be rushy. They do have heavy cavalry, but I like their skirmish cab better. They have very heavy infantry, or I say very heavy, very unshielded infantry, but still very strong on the charge. Keep these guys out of the forest. It's not where you want to be. They're still going to be tough to pull off a win versus, say, like a Rome or a Boii, but a fun faction nonetheless. Definitely one that's fun to play in the campaign also. Hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you soon.